let's talk about proportion. So I just kind of put down that charcoal here just so I can have a base that's not the white of the paper, which could be really intimidating really quickly. I'm going to tell you about a couple of tricks that I use to find my proportions, try to get them as accurate as I can. And a lot of these things I actually skip while drawing. If you've seen my videos before, and if you've seen any of the shorts or reels or TikToks or whatever that I post with the processes of them, I don't really settle down and focus on this principle because I can kind of subconsciously kind of do it. I've done it so often. But I'm going to talk to you about what's actually going on in my brain and how I learn to find these proportions correctly. So the key to these is kind of just finding what's called like a plumb line and like a horizon line with everything, kind of creating a grid in your mind. Think of a grid as something that you can kind of scale proportionally to, or scale so you can find a relative size of something. So when I'm talking about proportion, I'm talking about how big or small something is compared to the other part of the face. We'll use a face here because I think it's the simplest way of going about it. So, for example, I'm going to start drawing this eye, or at least the shadow shape of the eye, and I'm going to do a find proportions on these larger shadow shapes first, which allow me to get like the bigger shapes properly where they're supposed to be, and then refine to the smaller shapes. So I have the eye here and the eye here. When it comes to a face, most faces follow a very similar structure. Now they do vary depending on the person, but we could kind of get an idea that the width of the eye, or at least the eye socket, a little bit closer to like the eye size here from end to end, is about that much apart. So we're going to take that size, we're going to put it in the middle. We're also going to take it and then put it on this size, and that's going to be our eye size most likely. And we're going to work with a lot of most likely scenarios on this as we develop it. Now we can also take that size and then and actually, well, it's more so the size of from the middle here to the end of the eye. You could rotate that down, same size here. So you can actually measure it with a pencil if you want. I'll put my finger here from the tip of the pencil here. So you can take that here, and then I could actually mark it down here. And you're gonna know that that's probably around where you're gonna have the tip of the nose if you're looking straight on, right there. So you can kind of see that's already pretty accurate. And what you could also do is you can double that. So you take this size and then put it here. And that's probably gonna be close from the middle here to the tip of the nose. It's gonna be close to the bottom of the chin. There's tricks like that you can kind of identify with the face as you're drawing. But an important thing that you need to learn that is actually not, that you could draw with any part of the face, any angle, doesn't matter what you're doing, it doesn't have to be a certain type of face either, is comparing and contrasting edges and landmarks. A landmark is something that's distinct on the face, kind of like maybe the outside edge of this mouth here, that's a landmark, you could call that a landmark. The tip of the nose here, we call that a landmark because we can actually measure where that is. For example, if you see the width of the nose, on my reference at least, she has, the width of the nose is pretty much in line with the inside of where the eye is. It's very close, so if you go straight down from that, you're gonna have the width of the nose. Straight down from this, you're gonna have the width of the nose. So if you compare it like that, you can kind of see that there. Another thing is that if you go straight across here, in the middle, you're gonna get to where like kind of where the pupils are. And or the pupils and then the irises are. So you can also find that the edge of the mouth is actually in line with that. So if you kind of pull that out here, the edge of the mouth should be in line with where the pupil is, usually. Now you can kind of vary on that, but usually. So I'm kind of paying attention to those things and kind of comparing and contrasting where everything is. And the more information I get down, the more I can check if it's accurate or not. Now the hair on this piece is actually coming onto the face this way. So we can just darken this whole area and then it'll be pretty cool. Let me darken that real quick. I'm gonna use this side of the charcoal. I'll just use this charcoal here for the whole drawing just so I can simplify things for you guys. You can use whatever material you want. Whoop, dropped it. Dropped it again. Let's use a different piece of charcoal, because that one just broke. This is willow charcoal. Let's tone it a little bit, so we're gonna have some light and shadow to work with. This is a piece of vine charcoal, actually. So we'll use that for the shadows. So now, I have a decent idea where I want everything to be, and I'm going to refine that by checking this eyebrow line here. That should be the top of the shadow there. This lower line here should be the bottom of the eye, the bottom eyelid there. And I'm going to take a kneaded eraser to start to carve those shapes out. Start to clean it up a little bit. Forehead should be a lot brighter than it is now, a lot lighter. And then pull that down. So I can see here that my chin was actually a little bit too high on the face there. So I'm gonna move that down a little bit. And I'll reestablish it lower here. But as you kind of find those larger shadow shapes and proportions, it's a lot easier to refine accurately and to get the smaller shapes where they're supposed to go. Because if you start to kind of try to find where all the little details are ahead of time and all the little details are at the beginning of the drawing, you're going to be way off probably, because you're going to do a lot of guessing. So the goal and the trick is to do as little guessing as you can. Now, you can use a grid if you want. Now, that's not the best, in my opinion, that's not the best way to learn. You want to kind of create your own grid in your mind or on the page as you're drawing, because if you follow the grid, you can like kind of lean on the grid a little too much. You're not going to actually learn how to identify proportion. Now, I see that my pupils are probably a little too far out, so I'm going to bring them in a little bit compared to where they're supposed to be. I'm going to lighten this area, so it gives me a little bit of room to work with a darker color and a darker stroke. Let's use this piece of charcoal right here. Excuse me. Which means that I'm going to have to bring in where the hair goes here, and then I'm going to bring some of this hair across the face there. Just this way. You could also find like cross sections of angles, like the edge of the lip here kind of goes in line into this nostril here, the outside of the nostril here, which also goes to the outside edge of this eye socket here. So if you cross that over this way too, you're going to find that angle as well, which is almost like a 45-degree angle here. So you can find all those intersections, as well as maybe like a smaller version of that through here. When you go to where this, if you do that in this area here with the 45-degree angle, this is where the eyelids should start and should kind of curve out from here. So you can kind of check that dimension there. Here's the top of the eyelid, bottom here, or in the bottom of, top of the eyebrow, bottom of the eyelid here, and you have the tip of the nose here. That looks all pretty accurate. And then you have also what looks to be the same space between the nose, the outside, the inside of the mouth, and the chin here. So if you find those dimensions and those relationships on the face of your drawing and your reference, it'll make it a lot easier for you to identify what is going on with your drawing that's making it look not as realistic as it could, and not as like accurate as it could, really. Because you want to be accurate regardless of how realistic you're drawing. Proportions are a huge deal to the look and feel of your face that you're drawing. A very huge deal. Pulling in the face here a little bit, narrowing down the chin. Here. So this is the top of the bottom lip, and that seems to be just the same length of the open mouth and the top lip combined. So doubling that. Finding those relationships throughout the drawing are key to making your drawing lifelike. I'm gonna do a bunch of charcoal with this one. This will allow you to refine and refine, and it's okay if you got the wrong, that's okay if you got the wrong proportion the first time. It's good to refine, it's good to readjust. You don't want to just stick and be married to your ideas and where your proportions are. You want to be a little bit moldable in this. See, it's more important what your values are and where your proportions are than how your actual skill of drawing is to be able to make a successful drawing. Now, of course, your ability to draw comes in very importantly after you have accurate proportions and accurate values. If you want to learn more about values, I have a video on that. I have multiple videos on that as well. If you think I'm going a little fast, I also have drawing courses on these things you can check out for more in-depth, more formal, talk about the materials as I use them, and just a little bit more information on those, a little bit less demonstration setting. So as you can see, you're starting to get a nice feel of the actual face and where everything goes. I can refine these proportions all day long, but and become more accurate about where everything goes. But as you can see, I'm not focused too much on the small things as I am on the big things. Another thing to get accurate proportions is that I'm working through the entire drawing. I can't get the exact proportions of one eye, then move that over and do it again for the second time for the second eye. It's going to be way off. So you have to actually work through the whole thing little by little, large section by large section, and then go back and forth to refine continuously. You can't do one area, finish that piece, that section of the area, and then move on to the next one. You want to craft and mold the entire sculpture of drawing. I think it's more of a sculpture than a drawing in that way. So like this a little bit. I'll add a little bit of details to this one real quick. Clean it up a little bit. Make it a little more interesting, and then to identify accurate proportions and actually translate them onto the drawing is something that you learn with time. And if you don't get frustrated if it doesn't come out right away, try to see and ask your mom, your sister, I don't know, somebody to look at your drawing, somebody that won't be nice to you, and ask them, what's wrong with this? Why does it look weird? Or how can it look even more accurate to the actual image? And then they'll probably tell you, oh, the nose looks weird or something like that, because you don't have to be a good artist to recognize whether something looks off or if it looks right. And you want to continuously challenge yourself to be able to create an accurate drawing. That way you can be as expressive, as crazy, as stylized as you want to be and still have a strong foundational drawing. It's really important, and it comes with time and it comes with practice. So that's this lesson. I hope you guys learned something. I'll link the materials that I use and any other courses that I have available in the description, as well as any of the original artwork if you guys are interested in buying that at all at MADCHARCOALshop.com. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.